He dumped her in front of everyone. She walked out and married a stranger that night. What she didn't know? He was richer than them all. The grand ballroom at the Carlton Hotel shimmered under the soft golden glow of chandeliers, its elegance overwhelming. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh roses and bubbling champagne, the hum of affluent voices blending seamlessly with the quiet clink of crystal glasses. It was everything Emma had imagined her engagement party to be, a night that would mark the beginning of forever. Emma Wright, poised in a stunning emerald green gown, stood at the center of the room, her fingers delicately holding a glass of champagne. Her heart fluttered with anticipation. This was her moment. Tonight, she and Jackson would announce their engagement to the world, cementing their union in front of their closest friends, family, and the city's elite. Jackson Pierce, her fiancé, was the man she had dreamed of since she was a little girl. A rising star in the corporate world, Jackson was sharp, ambitious, and had all the traits that made him the perfect match for her. They had been together for 3 years. Their families had arranged the engagement, and everything felt perfect. She glanced at her parents, engaged in an animated conversation with a group of influential guests. They had been the driving force behind this engagement, convinced that Jackson was the key to securing the future of their family legacy. Emma sighed, taking another sip of champagne, her mind wandering. Where was Jackson? A soft murmur ran through the crowd as the ballroom doors swung open. All eyes turned toward the entrance. Emma's heart skipped a beat as Jackson strode in, not alone, but with a woman by his side. Emma blinked, trying to process what she was seeing. The woman was stunning, her red dress hugging her body in all the right places. She held Jackson's arm, leaning into him as if they had always belonged together. Emma's world tilted. The woman was Rachel Martin, Jackson's business associate, a name Emma had heard in passing but never truly focused on. But the way Rachel looked at Jackson, it was a look that made Emma's stomach drop. Jackson's hand was firmly clasped around Rachel's, and he seemed completely at ease, smiling in a way that made Emma's chest tighten. "What's going on?" Emma muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible over the buzz of whispers. Sweeping across the room, Rachel's lips curved into a confident smirk, and Jackson looked unfazed, as if nothing was amiss. He led Rachel toward Emma, their footsteps echoing through the marble floor. When they reached her, Jackson stopped a few feet away, his eyes meeting hers with an unnerving calmness. The air in the ballroom thickened as the crowd fell silent, their eyes darting between Emma and the couple before her. "Emma," Jackson said, his voice eerily casual. "We need to talk." Emma felt her pulse quicken, the glass of champagne in her hand suddenly feeling too heavy. She opened her mouth to speak, but Jackson beat her to it. "I'm sorry, but I can't marry you," he said, his words cutting through the air like a knife. Emma's world shifted. The room seemed to blur, the murmurs around her dissolving into nothingness as she stared at him, waiting for the punchline, certain that this was some sort of cruel joke. "What do you mean you can't marry me?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling. Jackson exhaled sharply, his eyes hardening as he took in her disbelief. "Let's be honest here, Emma. You've got nothing to offer me anymore. You're just a means to an end." Emma's heart stopped. What are you talking about? We were going to spend our lives together." Jackson's lips curled into a cold smile. "That's the thing. I never loved you, Emma. You were never the one. You were just a way to climb the social ladder." The words landed with a gut-wrenching force, and Emma felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She shook her head, trying to make sense of what he was saying. This wasn't the man she had loved. This couldn't be real. Rachel stepped forward, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'm sorry, Emma, but Jackson and we have something real. You were just a stepping stone." Emma stumbled back, her vision blurring. She couldn't catch her breath. The words were too much, too harsh. She had given everything to Jackson. Her love, her trust, and now it all meant nothing. Her mother's voice sliced through the suffocating silence. "Emma," she called, her tone cold. "You've embarrassed us all." Emma turned slowly, hoping to find support in her mother's eyes, but instead she saw nothing but contempt. "You couldn't secure a wealthy future," her mother continued, her words like daggers. "Then you're no longer a daughter of mine." The final blow landed. Emma's knees buckled, and she felt the weight of her world crashing down. Her mother, the one person she had always sought approval from, had just disowned her. Tears blurred Emma's vision as she turned and fled the ballroom. The sound of her heels clicking against the marble floor felt like the cruelest mockery of all. Her engagement was over. Her family had cast her aside and she had nothing left. She stumbled into the cold night air, her heart shattering with each step she took away from everything she had once known. The diamond engagement ring that had once sparkled with promise now felt like a shackle, its weight unbearable as she ripped it from her finger and tossed it into the gutter. She walked aimlessly through the streets of Manhattan, her mind a haze of confusion and pain. She was alone, truly alone, for the first time in years. But as the pain began to settle in, a strange clarity started to emerge. She didn't have to be the woman everyone expected her to be anymore. She could start over, rebuild herself, and find a new path. Emma stopped in front of a small, dimly lit bar. She didn't care what kind of place it was. She needed something to numb the pain, something to make her forget. She pushed open the door and stepped inside, the dim glow of neon lights casting strange shadows on the worn-out furniture. The bartender barely looked up as she slid onto a stool. Her emerald dress, once a symbol of her success, now felt out of place in the grungy setting. "Whiskey," she muttered, her voice hoarse. "Neat." He raised an eyebrow but didn't question her, sliding a glass of amber liquid in front of her. Emma downed it in one go, feeling the burn all the way down. The pain in her chest was still there, but the alcohol blurred it, softened it. "You don't look like the whiskey type," a voice cut through the haze. Emma turned and found a man sitting a few stools away. His appearance was unremarkable, yet there was something about him. An air of mystery, perhaps, or the way his eyes seemed to carry stories. "You'd be surprised," Emma muttered, taking another sip. He chuckled. "Rough night?" Emma let out a bitter laugh. "You could say that." And in that moment, for the first time since the night had started, she felt like someone was truly listening. The man's gaze never left her, his eyes scanning her face with an intensity that made Emma feel both exposed and oddly comforted. His dark, unruly hair fell just over his brow, and there was something about his presence that seemed to take away the edge of her pain, even if only for a moment. "Want to talk about it?" he asked, his voice low and soothing. Emma looked at him, through the haze of whiskey in her bloodstream. She had no idea why she felt compelled to open up to a stranger. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe it was the fact that she was completely and utterly alone in the world now. Jackson had crushed her, and her family had turned their backs on her. The thought of returning to the glitzy, empty life she had once known made her feel suffocated. "I don't know where to start," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I was supposed to be getting married tonight. I thought I had everything I ever wanted." She paused, her eyes drifting down to her empty glass. "But it was all a lie." The man leaned forward slightly, his arms resting on the bar as he watched her with quiet understanding. "People can be cruel," he said softly. "But you can't let them define who you are." Emma scoffed, not in anger but in disbelief. "Define who I am? My own mother doesn't even want me anymore. My fiancé, Jackson, he never loved me. He was using me, and now I'm just nobody." The man's gaze softened. "You're not nobody. You're just lost for a moment. It happens to the best of us." Emma glanced up at him, caught off guard by his words. He wasn't offering her pity, just simple raw truth. It felt strange hearing something so genuine from a complete stranger. "Maybe I am," she muttered, feeling the tears threaten to spill again, but she quickly wiped them away. "I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I was going to be married to the perfect man, the one everyone expected me to be with. And now, it's all gone." The man's expression turned thoughtful. "What if I told you that you didn't need to be the woman everyone expected you to be? That you could be the woman you've always wanted to be without all the expectations?" Emma looked at him, genuinely intrigued. "What do you mean by that?" He shrugged, a glimmer of humor in his eyes. "Well, I'm not exactly the kind of man you'd expect to see at a party like this." He gestured to the shabby bar around them. "But maybe that's exactly what you need right now. Something different, something real." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Are you trying to tell me that a stranger like you can offer me something real?" The man chuckled, a deep, rich sound. "Maybe. Maybe not. But you do seem like you could use a change, don't you? You can't keep looking at the past, Emma. It won't fix anything." For the first time in hours, Emma felt something shift in her chest, a small flicker of hope. This man, this stranger, was right. She was looking back at the life she had lost, the plans she'd made with Jackson, the future that now felt like a dream that was slipping further and further away. But maybe it was time to let go. She inhaled deeply, realizing just how badly she needed a change. "So what do you suggest I do?" The man smiled, his eyes twinkling with a sense of mischief. "Well, how about this? I'm not a rich guy, not like the ones you're used to. But I've got a proposition for you. If you want to leave all this behind, the fake engagements, the forced smiles, the family drama, then why not take a leap of faith? I'll marry you." Emma blinked, taken aback by the offer. "Marry me? Are you out of your mind?" His smile didn't waver. "Think about it. You need an escape, and I need something to do. It's a win-win. You'd get away from all the expectations, and I get someone to share my life with." Emma couldn't help but laugh despite herself. "You're serious?" "As serious as anyone can be in a bar like this." He raised his glass, his eyes locked onto hers. "What do you say? A fresh start, a brand new life. No strings attached, except for the ones we tie ourselves to." Emma hesitated, her mind racing. She was drunk, confused, and had just been humiliated in front of everyone she knew. Jackson's betrayal had shredded her heart, and she had no idea what her future held. She glanced at the man again. His confidence, his offer, the way he spoke with such certainty. It was absurd. It was reckless. But in that moment, it felt like the only real thing in her life. "Are you serious?" she asked again, a part of her still unsure if this was some kind of joke. The man nodded, leaning in closer. "I'm serious, Emma. You don't have to figure everything out right now. Just let go of the past and take a step into the unknown. You never know what could happen." Emma stared at him, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she felt like she had a choice. The weight of her previous life was still heavy, but something about his words made her feel lighter. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe it was the fact that she couldn't keep living in the shadow of her old self. She had to break free. "I'm doing it," she said suddenly, surprising herself. "I'll marry you." The man's grin widened, and he raised his glass in a mock toast. "To new beginnings," he said, clinking his glass against hers. Emma laughed, the sound shaky at first, but then building into something more real, more genuine. For the first time that night, she felt like she was in control of her life. No one was telling her who she should be or what she should do. She had made a decision. And maybe, just maybe, it would be the first step toward healing. But as the night wore on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this man than he was letting on. He had an air of mystery about him. Something elusive. Was he really just a regular guy? Or was he hiding something? Emma didn't know. But for now, she didn't care. She needed this escape, this moment of freedom. As they walked out of the bar together, Emma felt the weight of the world begin to lift. She wasn't sure what she was getting herself into. But in that moment, she was ready for whatever came next. She had nothing left to lose. And so a strange new chapter began. One that would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The days following Emma's impromptu decision to marry Liam, the stranger she had met in the bar felt like a surreal blur. The cold night air, the way his eyes had locked onto hers, and the promise of a fresh start seemed to have lifted her out of the fog of despair. The whirlwind she had entered was both exhilarating and terrifying, as if she had jumped into a vast ocean without knowing how to swim. Liam's apartment was nothing like the luxury penthouses Emma was accustomed to. It was small, tucked away in a modest building on the edge of the city, its walls painted in faded tones of beige. The furniture was second-hand, worn but functional, and the view from the small window was of a busy street, with cars honking and people bustling by. It was a stark contrast to the marble floors and grand chandeliers she had once walked on. For a brief moment, Emma felt out of place, standing in this strange new reality. But as she looked around, something inside her shifted. This was different. This was real. Liam had made sure she was settled in, showing her the tiny kitchenette, the old creaky bed and the bathroom with its chipped tiles. Yet as he moved around the apartment, humming a tune under his breath, Emma couldn't help but feel a strange pull toward him. He was kind in a way that felt disarming, and his confidence wasn't rooted in arrogance but in something deeper, something quiet, self-assured. "We don't have much," Liam said as he tossed his jacket onto the couch, his eyes scanning the room. "But this is home, and now it's ours." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. It wasn't the life she had imagined, but perhaps that was the point. Perhaps this was the life she needed. I guess it's not so bad, Emma said, her voice tentative. She ran her fingers along the edge of the worn couch. Not what I expected, but it's a start. Liam smiled, his eyes softening. It's more than a start, Emma. This is real life. No pretense, no expectations. Just us. Just us. The words settled in her chest, warm and comforting. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself to breathe freely. The shackles of wealth, family expectations, and societal status were beginning to loosen, and she could almost taste the freedom in the air. But it was then that something shifted. Liam had been quiet all evening, as if carrying a weight of his own that he wasn't ready to share. As the days passed, Emma couldn't help but notice oddities, little things that didn't quite add up. For one, Liam was a man of mystery. He never talked much about his past. Whenever Emma asked, he would deflect with humor or change the subject. He made no mention of his family, his background, or why he chose to live so modestly when clearly he had the means to live far better. Emma had stopped asking, not wanting to press him on something that he obviously didn't want to talk about. One evening, as they shared a simple dinner of pasta and salad, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was hiding something. She had gotten to know him a little better. His quirks, his kindness, the way he genuinely cared for her in a way Jackson never had. But there was always that one nagging feeling, like an invisible thread pulling at her subconscious. Who was Liam? Really? As they sat on the couch that evening, Emma noticed a stack of books piled up next to him. One book in particular caught her eye, a sleek leather-bound book with the words "The Sterling Legacy" embossed on the cover. She picked it up, curiosity bubbling in her chest. "What's this?" she asked, flipping it open to reveal an article clipping wedged between the pages. It was an old newspaper story with the headline, "Liam Alexander Sterling, the disappearance of the heir to the Sterling Empire." Emma froze. She read the article aloud, her voice trembling slightly. "The only son of billionaire businessman, Richard Sterling has vanished without a trace after an internal family scandal. The disappearance of Liam Sterling has left many questions unanswered, with no leads in sight." Liam's face tightened at the mention of his name. He didn't say a word, his jaw clenched as he stared at the book in Emma's hands. "Liam?" Emma whispered, feeling her heart race. She looked up at him, her mind spinning. "Is this you? Are you really Liam Sterling?" Liam didn't answer immediately. Instead, he ran a hand through his hair and sighed deeply. "I knew this day would come," he said quietly. "I wasn't ready to tell you, Emma. Not yet." Emma's breath caught in her throat as everything she thought she knew about Liam began to unravel. He was the heir to one of the most powerful business empires in the country. He wasn't just some poor guy. He was rich, powerful, and for some reason had chosen to leave it all behind. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you tell me?" Liam looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of regret and honesty. "Because I didn't want you to love me for my money. I needed to know that you loved me for who I am, not who my family is or what I have." Emma felt her heart tighten, a rush of emotions overwhelming her. She didn't know whether to be angry, confused, or grateful. Her mind whirled with questions, but one thing stood clear. She had been swept up in a world of deception, not just by Jackson, but by Liam as well. "You had to know eventually," Liam continued, his voice gentle. "But I wanted to be the man you loved, not the man I was born to be. I walked away from it all because I wanted to find something real." Emma placed the book down on the coffee table and looked at him, her emotions a whirlwind of disbelief and awe. "But you could have had everything. Why give it all up?" Liam chuckled softly, a bitter edge to his laughter. "I did have everything, but that everything wasn't worth anything without love, without trust, without real connections." Emma stood up, pacing the small apartment, trying to process everything. "So what does this mean? Am I just a pawn in your experiment? To find love?" "No," Liam said quickly, rising to meet her. "I never meant to make you feel like that. I didn't think things through. I just needed someone to see me. Not the heir, not the fortune. Just me." Emma's chest tightened. The man standing before her wasn't the stranger she had married in a drunken haze anymore. He was someone with a story, a past, and a future, one she had never seen coming. But as she looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had once made her, feel like she could take on the world, she realized something. They were both broken. And maybe, just maybe, they could find healing together. For the first time in days, Emma felt like the weight of the world had shifted. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know what the future held. But she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The next few days were a blur. Emma couldn't shake the revelation of who Liam really was. A part of her felt betrayed, though he had never lied to her outright. It was the secrets, the silence, the mystery that gnawed at her. She had married him in a moment of pain and confusion, and now she had to confront the reality that the man she was living with wasn't just a regular guy. He was Liam Alexander Sterling, the heir to one of the most powerful fortunes in the country. But there was something else, something more important than the wealth, the family legacy, or the scandal that had forced him into hiding. It was the connection they shared, the bond that had formed between them in those crazy, surreal moments after the engagement party, when she had chosen to escape the life she had been living and he had been there to offer her a new beginning. Emma couldn't deny that Liam was different. He wasn't just offering her wealth or luxury, he was offering her something far more elusive: authenticity. A life without the pressures of appearances, expectations, and the constant scrutiny of others. Yet now that the truth about his identity was out, she couldn't ignore the questions bubbling in her mind. Did he really want her for who she was, or was she just part of his experiment to escape his past? They had barely spoken about the future. Their life together felt like a fragile thing, something that could shatter if they didn't address the cracks forming between them. Liam had been patient, never pushing her, but Emma knew she needed to confront her own feelings. She needed to know if she could trust him fully or if her entire life had been based on a lie. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a warm golden glow across their small apartment, Emma decided to ask him the one question that had been weighing on her heart. "Liam," she started softly, her voice barely a whisper. He looked up from the book he was reading, his expression calm and open. "Why did you choose to marry me? Really? Was it just because you needed someone to share this new life with?" Liam closed the book and set it aside, his gaze steady on her. "I told you before," he said slowly, his voice measured. "I didn't want you to love me for my name, my wealth, or what my family has. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not who I was born to be." "But that doesn't answer my question," Emma insisted, walking over to him. "Why me? Why did you choose me when you could have anyone?" Liam's eyes softened, and for a moment he seemed to search for the right words. Finally he spoke, his voice quiet but full of sincerity. "Because you're real, Emma. You're not like the women I've known. You're not interested in what I have to offer. You want to know the real me, the one that's been hiding behind all the luxury, the wealth, the legacy. I saw in you a woman who wasn't dazzled by that, who saw me as a person, not a title. That's why I chose you." Emma's heart fluttered, her doubts slowly beginning to fade. Liam wasn't perfect, no one was. But he was the first man who had ever seen her for who she truly was, not for the name she carried or the wealth her family possessed. She sighed, her eyes locking onto his. "But now that I know who you really are, I feel like I don't know you at all. It's like I've been living in a dream. I don't know if I can just forget everything." Liam nodded, understanding. "I didn't expect you to. This isn't something you can just forget. I never wanted you to feel like you were part of some game, Emma. I'm sorry for not being upfront with you from the beginning. I just wanted to protect what we had. I didn't want you to doubt me." Emma took a deep breath. She had never been one to shy away from confrontation, but this felt different. This was her future. Her heart still felt fractured, but somehow she could see the pieces slowly coming together again. "I don't know if I can trust you fully yet, Liam, but I want to try. I want to figure this out because..." She paused, her words catching in her throat. "Because I think I'm falling for you." Liam smiled then, a warmth spreading across his face. "That's all I want, Emma. A chance to show you that I'm not the man you think I am. I don't need you to love me for my name. I need you to love me for the man I've become." For the first time since the engagement party, Emma felt like she had a sense of clarity. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she wasn't walking it alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild something real together. The days that followed felt like an exploration of sorts. Emma and Liam began to spend more time together, slowly unraveling the layers of their pasts and learning to trust each other with their fears, desires, and dreams. Emma found herself letting go of the bitterness she had felt toward her old life, and while there were still moments of uncertainty, they began to carve out a life of their own, one built on honesty, even if it was difficult at times. One Saturday morning, as they walked through a farmer's market, Liam turned to Emma, his expression more serious than usual. He had asked her to meet him at the market for something important, and though Emma wasn't sure what to expect, she was ready to face whatever it was. "Emma," he began, his voice steady, "there's something I haven't told you, and I need you to know. I've been keeping something from you about my family." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Liam paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I wasn't just hiding from the media or the business world when I disappeared. I was hiding from my family. My father, he's not who you think he is. He's ruthless, manipulative, and I couldn't stand to be part of that anymore. I had to leave it all behind." Emma looked at him, her heart aching for him. She had known there was more to his story, but hearing the pain in his voice made her realize just how much he had sacrificed to be with her, to find something genuine and pure. "I understand now," Emma said softly. "I think I've been hiding too, hiding from my true self, trying to live up to expectations. But with you, I feel like I can just be me." Liam smiled, reaching for her hand. "That's all I've ever wanted, Emma. For you to be yourself, for us to be ourselves without the weight of the past dragging us down." They stood there, hand in hand, surrounded by the colors and sounds of the market, the future still uncertain, but full of possibility. Emma realized that while their paths had been twisted and filled with heartache, they had found something worth holding on to: each other. It had been weeks since Emma learned the truth about Liam. Weeks since she made the decision to step away from the life she had known and trust the mysterious man who had promised her nothing but honesty. They had faced their demons together, his family's expectations and her own insecurities, and slowly they began to carve out a life for themselves. But even as Emma found herself feeling more at home in Liam's modest apartment, she couldn't ignore the nagging doubt that still lingered in the back of her mind. She had loved the man who had stood before her in the bar that night, the man who offered her a fresh start when everything else had fallen apart. But now, as she looked at him, Liam Alexander Sterling, heir to a billion-dollar empire, she found herself wondering whether she could truly walk away from everything she had known. Could she be with someone who had the world at his feet but chose to live like this in obscurity? Was she ready to embrace a life where everything could change at any moment? As much as she wanted to dismiss those questions, she knew they were valid. The future was uncertain, and the life they were building together was fragile. But in Liam's arms, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. One evening, after a quiet dinner together, Emma and Liam sat on the couch, the soft glow of the lamp casting long shadows across the room. Liam had been unusually quiet all night, and Emma could sense that something was on his mind. "Liam," Emma said softly, turning toward him. "What's going on? You've been distant lately." Liam looked up, his eyes clouded with something Emma couldn't quite place. He took a deep breath, as if deciding whether to share something he had been holding back. Finally, he spoke. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been avoiding," he said, his voice steady but filled with an undertone of tension. "I've been offered a chance to go back to the family business, to the Sterling Empire. My father, he's reaching out. He wants me to come home, to take my place in the company." Emma froze. The words hit her like a wave, sweeping away the air from her lungs. She had known this moment would come. She had known that the past, the world he had left behind, would eventually catch up with him. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "It means that I have a choice," Liam said quietly, his eyes searching hers. "I could go back to the life I walked away from, the power, the wealth, the legacy, or I could stay here with you. But that means turning my back on everything I've known." Emma's heart raced. The weight of his words hung in the air, thick and heavy. It was the question she had been dreading, the question she wasn't sure she could answer. "Do you want to go back?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam's gaze softened, and he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "I don't know. Part of me feels like I owe it to my family. But part of me wants to build something with you. Something real. something that isn't defined by wealth or power, but by love and trust. Emma stared at him, her mind racing. This was the moment that would define their future. She had spent so many years chasing after a dream that was never truly hers. Now she had to decide whether she was ready to build a new dream. One with Liam, one that was free from the chains of her past. "You've built something real already," Emma said softly, her voice filled with conviction. "You've chosen to live a life that's authentic. You've shown me that it's possible to have everything without the weight of all that money and power. I'm not asking you to abandon your family, but don't abandon us." Liam's eyes searched hers, his face unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Emma felt the tension in the room build, the weight of the decision pressing down on both of them. Then finally Liam spoke, his voice full of quiet determination. "I've spent my whole life running from expectations, from the legacy my father built. But you've shown me that there's more to life than that. You've shown me that love, real love, doesn't come from power or wealth. It comes from being true to who we are." Emma felt tears sting her eyes, but she smiled. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. "I choose you, Emma," Liam said, his voice firm. "I choose a life with you. I choose love, not legacy. I choose authenticity, not appearances. I don't need the sterling name to know who I am. I don't need to go back to that world. I have everything I need with you." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she leaned forward, wrapping her arms around him. "I choose you too," she whispered, her heart full. "I choose this life with you. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." For the first time in her life, Emma felt truly free. She had been running from the expectations of others for so long, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't hers. But now, standing here with Liam, she realized that she didn't need to live up to anyone's expectations but her own. She didn't need wealth, status, or family approval. She just needed love. And that's what she had found with Liam. The following weeks passed in a blur of new beginnings. Emma and Liam spent more time together, growing closer as they rebuilt their lives from the ground up. They focused on what mattered most, building a future together, free from the pressures of the past. One afternoon, Liam surprised Emma with a visit to a small, cozy venue he had rented out for them. A private, intimate setting with soft music playing in the background and candles flickering on every table. As they sat together, enjoying a simple dinner, Liam took her hand in his and looked into her eyes. "I've been thinking a lot," Liam said, his voice soft but full of intent, "about what we talked about. And I want to make a promise to you." Emma raised an eyebrow, curious. "What kind of promise?" Liam smiled, his eyes full of affection. "I promise that no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, we will always have each other. We won't let the past define us. We will build a future on our own terms. And most of all, we will never let go of the love we've found." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she squeezed his hand. She had never felt more certain of anything in her life. This was her future, with him. As they sat together, surrounded by the warmth of the flickering candles and the soft hum of music, Emma knew one thing for sure. She was no longer lost. She had found herself, found love, and built a life that was real. One that was based on the simple truth that love, above all else, was the most powerful force in the world. And together, Emma and Liam would rewrite the story of their lives. Emma's story isn't just about a broken engagement or an unexpected love. It's about the power of choosing yourself when the world tries to define your worth. She walked away from betrayal, family rejection, and the illusion of perfection, only to discover something far more valuable: authenticity, purpose, and a love rooted in truth. Through Liam, she learned that wealth means nothing without genuine connection, and that healing doesn't come from what you have, but from who you become. This story reminds us that sometimes life's cruelest turns are leading us to the most meaningful destinations, that behind every heartbreak is an opportunity to rewrite our narrative. Emma didn't just find love, she found herself. So if you're facing your own turning point, remember this: you are not defined by your past or what others expect of you. You are defined by the courage to begin again. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or gave you hope, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support gives us the strength to bring you more soul-stirring stories of resilience, redemption, and love that heals. See you in the next chapter.